same shit they got the last hoe cut. Bitch, that's the same shit they got your baby daddy for. That's the same shit they got your last hoe cut. Bitch, that's the same shit they got your baby daddy for. Come outside, hoe. Get up live, hoe. Come outside, hoe. Get up live, hoe. Come outside, hoe. Get up live, hoe. Come outside, hoe. Get up live, hoe.
Sickening, isn't it? Yellow World, and welcome to Undivested Version and another anti-swirler's tale. As you see before your screen now, all that young black girls have to look up to, and also what all, typically black men and young black boys have to choose from. They claim that's all we got to choose from, talking about them pointing at the black males, but really these black men and girls, they come from that. You guys know it. Other race of people, y'all know it too. That's why when y'all get mad, y'all tell them what you really think. And it tends to line up with what's actually going on. So we know you just keep quiet and stay out of it. And it's funny that they would sit there and say, when say if a non-black person is talking about it, if they're not talking about a black man and putting him down, well, if they talking about a black man and putting him down and saying it was his fault, well, they clapping about it, they in the comments praising and thank you. But if they talking about them and how they are being the downfall and ruining things, then they stay out of this. This is not y'all business. Why is y'all worried about black folk? Okay, now you want them to be quiet. Typically how they try to shut the men up from telling their side, because these folks been running around lying the whole time and telling the one side of the story, and they want us to be quiet. Because we're drowning, they crap out with the facts and the visuals. You see what I'm saying? Because that's what's important.
Now to a Fox 5 News alert. Tonight, a mother charged with trying to murder her own teenage daughter. Fox 5 first brought you this story out of Seat Pleasant, Maryland, as breaking news last night.
That young teenager is still recovering in the hospital tonight. Fox 5's Lily Zhang is tracking the latest details on these new charges from the newsroom. Lily, what are you learning?
Hey, good evening to you both. So new charging documents just released to Fox 5 detail exactly what happened for this suspect allegedly shot her daughter. The suspect in this case has been identified as Talika Brown, and she is due in court tomorrow for a bond hearing. Now, police say there was an argument that apparently turned physical between the mom and daughter. Charging documents sent to us this evening say Brown's daughter began to walk down the stairs, and that is when police say she heard the gunshot, then fell down the steps. All of this unfolding at the family's home in Seat Pleasant just before 5 o'clock yesterday.
When Mom Talika Brown spoke with first responders after her 13-year-old daughter was shot yesterday afternoon, this was what she told them.
Mom is advising that she arrived home like this. She came home, but she was already bleeding and apparently had a gunshot wound to the back of her neck.
And they're advising that the patient was shot in her neck by a homeless person.
But prosecutors say the mom was the one who allegedly pulled the trigger and shot her daughter in the neck after an argument. According to court documents, the daughter told investigators she then fell down the stairs and couldn't move. She was taken to the hospital in critical condition. Brown is now charged with first-degree attempted murder. Acting Seat Pleasant Police Chief Cedric Hayward saying in a statement, "It is always tragic when we have acts of violence within our community, but it is heart-wrenching when the perpetrator is supposed to be your protector." Maryland court records show Talika Brown was accused in a domestic violence case last year, with a judge granting a temporary stay-away order. It's not clear from who or where. Brown was also temporarily ordered to surrender any guns. The records show the final stay-away order was later denied because there was no statutory basis for relief. As for the 13-year-old daughter, police say she's now recovering at the hospital. According to court documents, the teen told investigators her mom allegedly asked her to lie and say she was shot by an intruder.
And Brown is scheduled to appear in Prince George's County Court tomorrow afternoon for a bond review hearing. In Seat Pleasant, Amy Cho.
A few hours ago, a judge denied bond for 32-year-old Talika Brown.
Police say she shot her 13-year-old daughter in the neck during an argument at their Seat Pleasant home. Brown is facing several charges, including first-degree murder. Our Lionel Donovan is live outside the home where this shooting happened, and he brings us the latest. What are we learning right now, Lionel?
Good afternoon, Lorenzo and Leslie. Well, the state's attorney's office says that the teen victim is still currently in stable but critical condition. However, they did say that she was able to get up and walk around a little bit. Now, the attorney's office is also saying that at this point, the immediate concern is making sure that Brown can't stop her daughter from telling the truth.
And while no one thinks that a mother would shoot her very own daughter, no one could conceive of that. These incidents do happen.
Today, 32-year-old Taleka Brown was brought in front of a Prince George's County judge. Brown is accused of shooting her 13-year-old daughter during an argument. Police arrived at Brown's residence on 69th Place in Seat Pleasant just before 5 p.m. Monday. Officers found the teenager near the front door with a gunshot wound to her neck. Court documents say initially, the victim told police that an intruder shot her when she got home from school. But audio from 911 dispatch shows her story didn't match with what Brown told police.
3 hours. I checked the surrounding areas for Waterford Middle School. I'm not showing any sound of gunshots in that area.
Copy that. Yeah, we spoke with a few neighbors also. They didn't hear anything. Mom is advising that she arrived home from Walker Middle School like this. She came home, she was already bleeding and apparently had a gunshot wound to the back of her neck. But it did not happen at this location, apparently.
Once the teenager was taken to the hospital, she told investigators that her mother told her to lie about what happened and confessed that after their altercation, she saw her mother holding a gun. Investigators concluded that Brown pulled the trigger. In court, the prosecution revealed that Brown left the teen's father a voicemail this morning, trying to influence her daughter. The judge decided that Brown would be held without bond to keep that from happening.
It's her mother. She's going to listen to her mother. And so we don't want her to be tainted in any way by the pressure.
Now, Leslie and Lorenzo, the most serious charge that Brown is facing, first-degree attempted murder, carries a maximum sentence of life in prison. She hasn't put in a plea yet, but she is scheduled to go back into court on October 25th. Now, in regards to that voicemail, the victim's father said that not once throughout the entire voicemail did Brown ask how her daughter is doing. Live in Prince George's County, Lionel Donovan, WUSA 9.
Boy, this whole thing just seemed inconceivable, Lionel, thinking about this little girl as she...
A bizarre situation on this quiet residential street in Waterford, and it unfolded in this house behind me. The Oakland County Prosecutor's Office says that police officers discovered a 32-year-old woman who had developmental disabilities tied up with duct tape in the backyard, and a 4-year-old strapped in a stroller. Officers later tracked down and arrested Brittany Ivory, who is the sister of the woman found in the backyard and the mother of the child. The prosecutor's office says that Ivory left the home the night before the discovery. We spoke to neighbors. They didn't want to go on camera, but they did say that they would see Ivory outside occasionally, but she wasn't sociable. The family hadn't lived in that house for too long. Brittany Ivory faces felony child and adult abuse charges. Her next court hearing will be October 1st. If she is convicted in this process, she could face up to more than a decade in prison, along with thousands of dollars worth of fines. In Waterford, I'm Brandon Hudson, Fox 2 News.
I told you. But I want to get into something today. Mothers, prostitute not thy daughters and cause her to be a slur. There's a lot of that going on. Nobody wants to talk about it. They want to keep it a secret. And on that topic, I want to mention this. I want to say this to the masses. We know that these women are being raised to blame the man for everything. That's in general, but especially in the black households. That mama could have been a straight terrorist, and these women would hold that in. Some of them be damn near 90 years old talking about, I finally got the relationship I always wanted with my mama. Never heard a man say that, but I heard plenty of women say it. And then they be friends with their daughters. Well, God gave you a title for a reason, mother and father. Not friend, fool. But that's what we see too often. And I done heard them say, that's my friend. What do you mean she's 10? I don't know. Explain that to me, but you the most educated. But what you're about to see today and what you're about to hear is some gruesome details from a daughter, from a mother, about a family. Horrible. But of course, we're going to get into the examples first, and then we're going to get into the story that follows. And you guys want to get this, spread it, share it, like it, subscribe if you will. But the message is more important. Get it out there, black man, because the thing about you is you got to tell your story. If you let them tell it, they going to lie. He ran off. But understand that every woman that wanted to have sex with that woman didn't get a chance. But just about every man that woman wanted to have sex with blew her back out. You see what I'm saying? So by definition, she chose. Now, I'm not saying that, well, y'all chose. Well, you know, you can't really, I'm not really the one to really push that too much on somebody because I know things happen. But see, the problem with the woman is you use excuses too often and you only use them to your benefit. That's why it typically falls on deaf ears. You see what I'm saying? You make up all the excuses in the world while you in the situation you in, but then you tell a man he should be a man, and it takes two, and you become Einstein when you want to put the shoe on the other foot. Basically, is what I'm saying. You don't tell yourself the same thing you tell the other party, but if you did that, you wouldn't be in the situation you was in. Just saying. But of course, like I said, we're going to get into the examples, and then we're going to get into the story that follows. It's gruesome, man. These women are pretty much raised up to point the finger at the black man and say it's his fault. And then when you break them down and actually get them to talk, you find out that their problem started way before they even left the household. That's what I want to get into today. Can I drop it like it's hot? You know what I'm saying? Can I drop it like it's hot? I'm going to tell you like it is. We're going to go there. They taught to blame the black man for everything, and no matter what, that's your mama. I bet y'all ain't never heard that said about the daddy. That nigga missed one child support payment, and it's his fault. God news. That's still your mama. You only heard that one way. You ain't heard it. You ain't heard that said about a father a day in your life. Come on now, don't all raise your hands at once. I know you haven't. That's not a saying amongst the daddy, just the mama. But we're going to get into it and show how evil and, I've talked to one girl before and she told me how she used to run away from her mama's house. The lady used to take the door off the hinges of her room just to torture. She said that bee used to torture me, Said she used to run away and she used to call the police to bring her back just to torture. Took the door off the hinges of her room so she wouldn't have no privacy. So she could just walk by and just torment her. I was like, wow. Black, of course. But anyway, let's get into some of the examples that follow, and then we're going to get back into the meat of the crux of the situation and expose and show how these things are not one way. These things go both ways, but if you know, you know. Let's get into it. I ain't going to hold you.
You ain't got to like me. I ain't the you should not like your baby daddy. And I don't like none of y'all. I don't like you, his mammy, his sister, none of y'all. His kids, I don't like y'all. You gonna get mad at me because you're the son of a crackhead. You the son of a crackhead. Who the get pregnant from a son of a crackhead and you mad at me? You mad at me because you the crackhead son. How many kids you got? Who? How many kids you got? How many kids I got? How many kids you got? According to the state, none. How many kids? Not even you. My womb has reset itself. It has reset itself. My womb is at zero. It's 2021. I ain't got no more kids. Stop playing with me. You have 4 kids, so that means 3 different kids nutted in a crackhead's daughter. Okay, so technically your daddy ain't nutting shit. If you knew how small your daddy was, if you knew how small your motherfucking daddy was, he ain't nutted on my lip and it swam to the top, bitch. You gotta think I ain't know he was your daddy. Huh? Your daddy ain't got no goddamn. Your daddy ain't got no motherfucking. Talking about your daddy like your daddy ain't shit. Your daddy. And quite frankly, I f***ed him for $100 again since I club at sex that night, bitch. So I can go pussy pop in the VIP section where big ballers was at. Cause your small daddy, he wasn't a baller. He wasn't a baller at all. He was sitting there broke, needing some goddamn coochie, paying $100 for coochie for car sex, bitch.
Ooh, busted open with one brother raw and take it to another brother to go give him AIDS. My Lord and my God.
I gotta start my motherfucking live over because what you ain't gonna do is embarrass me on my motherfucking live over.
You would think it was too late for that. I feel sorry for black children.
It's statistically a fact, single mothers, we produce the worst product, right? part of that, when we talk about males, especially black males, we don't realize that we're programmed, because if you don't understand history, you won't realize that, like, it starts with the female. Even when we were slaves, the idea is if you program the mind of the female slave, she will raise the offspring to continue your agenda without you having to be physically involved. She will teach her children to abide, because we're the first givers of life and care when kids are small. So we train them up to be good slaves, follow these particular rules. We indoctrinate and, create certain philosophies in their mind. So by the time they're big and strong, they still following behind the same agenda that was placed into us. So when you look at males that come from single mother-headed households, if you don't get around positive male role models, you have the emotional management skills of a woman.
Break that down.
She's talking if all of your upbringing, 17, 18 years, you've only seen a woman head the household. You've only seen how a woman problem solves. You only seen how a female, i.e. your mother, handles things. You've only seen how she deals with anger, guilt, shame, different feelings. You're only watching it from her. Now, she ain't telling you act like me, but she telling you act like me because this is programming.
My name is Kennesha Hart, and I am a survivor of 16 pedophiles. At 3 years old, my mama used to go boost. She would go steal with her friend, and she would leave me with this man named Curtis. Curtis used to make me give him at 3. The next encounter was with Mr. Holmes. My mama used to run the streets and leave me at Mr. Holmes' house, which was her friend, and he used to make me also give him. The next person was a teenage girl used to take me up under her house and get on top of me and punch me. When my mom would leave me with her friends, she would either be stealing. I never knew what she was stealing. I never saw merchandise. But I know she went to jail when I was maybe 4 or 5, and I had to go stay with her first cousin. My daddy later on in life told me after I had my first baby, he came to the hospital and told me that he used to my mama. So from that time, and I was 13, I had my first baby at 13. From that time until pretty much I was 40 years old, I marinated on that with everything else that I had been through and how many people from her hands had violated me. And I put 2 and 2 together and said, I asked myself, was my mama me? And because also, why did my daddy feel the need? I needed to know that. Which he did not know of any molestations. He just knew of my cousin getting me pregnant at 12, which he was like 2 years older than me, my cousin. And that was in Georgia. And he knew about the person who raped me in the church. He didn't know about nothing else. And not until I was 32 years old did I sit down, write down everyone's name, and if I didn't remember their name, I wrote down the location and counted the individuals who had violated me. See, my mama died when I was 8, and she was just 28. So originally, my dad and them tried to get me when my mama died, but my maternal grandma did not want that to happen. So once my mom, brother Michael had started messing with me, and I went to school and told HRS, DCF, they came and pulled me and my little sister out of the home. My sister didn't have any family other than my grandma, so they asked my daddy, could she come over until they found a placement for her, and they let her come over, and eventually she left, and I stayed with my dad up until a certain point. Once I started living with my daddy, besides only one encounter happened from one person from my paternal side, and that was my Uncle Joe. When I would sit down or he would have me sit next to him, he would put his hand down for me to sit on it. Now, mind you, that was my granddaddy's sister husband, and her name was Aunt Louise, and she was a caterer. She would come down there and cook for my grandma. And when ingredients was needed, they would send my Uncle Joe to the store, and they would always ask me, do I want to ride with my Uncle Joe? I don't remember ever since I've known of him being in my life as a baby, just start off doing me like that. It started after so many rides to the store. Then he started to approach me like that. It didn't just off the rip happen like that over the years. When I told my grandma, I put her down to her ear, to whisper in her ear to let her know what he was doing. And she told me, do not tell my granddaddy, stay away from him. And she never sent me again nowhere with him ever. The plethora of 16 people have been from the hands of people on my maternal mama side. A plethora of. So after Uncle Joe, I wanted to say it was the pastor of my grandma church, my maternal grandma church. She would send him, my grandma would have to be to work 3-4 o'clock in the morning. She was a supervisor janitorial at UNF, University of North Florida, and she would have to be to work 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And on her days that she was at work, he would come over and fix things that maybe the hot water heater, the washing machine, whatever, right? When we would be there. And he would play up under my clothes and leave me money. My sister was around when the pastor of my grandma church, it probably wasn't in the same vicinity, maybe a year or two off, because she used to stay with my grandma. She used to stay with my mama's sister in Orlando. She told me that he had been doing the same thing to her when she would come to our grandma's house and leave her money too. I was young when the pastor was, and me and my sister was 4 years apart, and I'm the oldest. So she had to be young. My mama, stepdaddy molested her. She ran away to my daddy, and they had me and my sister. That's all that I know about. But I'm sure it done happened because so many people, pedophiles that was in my circle, like, that's what making me think that my mama had her hands in. It's not making no other sense. And I think my grandma was sending the pastor to mess with me and my little sister, because when we told her, she didn't so-called believe us. So she said, but me and my sister came up to the conclusion she probably was messing with him because she was money hungry. I don't know why, but I had told my daddy I hated him. We weren't getting along for some reason. I think I was more so afraid of my daddy. I didn't know that then, but I told him I hate him, and he sent me to Georgia on my maternal grandma's side. My grandma's sister, which was my great aunt, but I called her grandma, took me to Georgia, and for me to live, I guess, because I couldn't tell him why I hated him, which I really didn't know until later, that I really didn't hate my daddy. I was just afraid of him. He was intimidating. He was serious. You know, he didn't play the radio. And so with that being said, that's where my oldest daughter came from, which was my cousin. And that's when I got pregnant with my oldest daughter from. And his uncles, 4 of his uncles, have did what the rest of them did, pretty much. The people my daddy took me to Georgia to, they was angry at me once they found out. So originally, I knew I had a period, but I didn't really have a consumption fully because I was just 12. I don't recall having sex education as of yet. I was never told why the period was there. I just knew to expect a period. When I had my period at 10, I told my grandma, and she did what was needed and showed me what I was supposed to do, right? So when I got pregnant at 12 in Georgia, I noticed my period went on, but I didn't know I was pregnant. I just noticed I wasn't getting a period. And my grandma would give me allowance, and I would go to the hair store and get burgundy dye to make it look like I had a period, and just put my drawers in the dirty clothes for her to wash because she was washing my clothes. And apparently that didn't work, because later they had asked me, was I pregnant? And I was like, no, but this was after I stood in the shower and tried to hold my stomach in and could not hold my stomach in for nothing. And I put 2 and 2 together. And so, but I still didn't tell them that. And when they later asked me that afterwards, I just denied it and they took me to go get a test, and I was pregnant. Then they shot me to Atlanta to get an abortion, and I was 5 months pregnant, and they said, she gotta have it. I'm too far along. And then they politely drove me right back down here to my paternal grandma and my daddy. When I ran to the den, my grandma was asleep. My uncle opened the door for me. I ran straight to the den. She was asleep. She just woke up out her sleep. When I shook and said, she woke up out her sleep and said, "You pregnant?" And I shook my head, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am." And she came to the living room, and then they just started, she, her, this what she did, me. Yeah. When I got back with my grandma and my daddy, they had, without me knowing, came up with a solution to put me in a pregnant home to have my baby and give her up for adoption. And me being in the pregnant home, nobody else know, no family come over, nobody else see me there pregnant, and no neighbors wouldn't know in the neighborhood, And when I saw my baby, I instantly said, I'm keeping her. And that's what I did. Well, because I was so concerned about where I'm going to live with my baby, I didn't really start. It was in my mind locked for me to go back to, but I didn't really start marinating on that until I was good and grown, maybe my mid-20s, you get what I'm saying? And started putting things together, started putting the pieces together. But once I left the hospital, he came to Buckner Manor and asked me one more time, why did I hate him? And I told him I didn't know. I couldn't tell him because I don't know. And he just fell down and started breaking down crying and was like, let's go home. And he took me home with my baby. But technically I was living with his mama, my grandma. And she would always ask me with the baby and my aunt, you know what you're doing? You know how to raise a baby? You know how to feed a baby? You know how to burp a baby? You know how to change a baby? And I would be like, yeah. And she said, okay. And my baby was around 1 year old, and I heard her on the phone with her friend, and she was bragging about, she used to call me, my nickname Rhoda. That's what she called me. And she named me that. And then she used to tell her friends, I can count on one time how many times I done changed Rhoda baby. She was bragging because I was always on top of, I already knew I was young and everybody was so concerned, so I just vowed that I would do my best. It was hard because I was my daddy's only child, and once my baby came, they used to say, oh, and I was spoiled. And they used to tell me, oh, you don't get nothing no more, the baby get everything. But it didn't matter because, they still looked out for me, but it was things that I really needed. Nothing too spectacular that I wanted unless I really just accomplished, something, and then I get a gift. Or my 16th birthday, I'll get something big. Yeah, but for the most part, I don't know. I guess it was bittersweet because I ended up with 3 children by the time I was 18. And mentally, no one knew what I was going through because I stayed on top of me having to be there for my children. But from 3 to 40 years old, I marinated and contemplated and asked God why. And just lived, I guess, mentally in a dark place. Once I found out I was pregnant, now this the second go time, I'm clearly knowing what's going on this time around. I'm not fooled at all, right? And I'm beginning the show and told my grandma, my paternal grandmother, that what happened when it happened. She called the police and they had an open case and the person went to jail. He pled guilty, got over 300 hours of community service, 5 years probation, and time served from whenever he went to jail initially to whenever he was released. And naturally, he have to be registered as a sex offender, which you can find him right now. My oldest daughter was told by a family member who her daddy was, and they've been talking ever since, on and off, not consistently. So yeah, she know. The entire journey, she is disgusted, but how she feel about her daddy and all of that, how that happened, I honestly couldn't tell you. My healing journey started 3 years ago when I fasted for the first time. And I did 3 days without starting over, nothing but water and worshiping, praying, watching Christ content, and speaking in the Holy Spirit. And that's where it started at. Well, now the second, I guess, part of the healing journey is going pretty good. He kept telling me I needed to make a YouTube channel showing my face and telling my story. And he said, what you gonna do now? And I said, I'ma start it January 2023 because I didn't have any choice. I had to go ahead and be obedient and do what I had to do because this is going to be my real life-changing blessing, I believe. First and foremost, it's going to help everyone who reaches my videos reach. It's going to help them in their healing process and the things they done been through that, you know, the same like me. So, but what I would tell someone who have been through what I have is that we are all here for a reason. And while we're here, we have a journey to go through. At the end of that journey is your destination. So when you go through your journey, meaning living the life that God intended you to live, whether it's horrific or whether it's magnificent, the journey you went through have a purpose. Everyone have a purpose. So the real reason you're here, whatever your journey is, even though it hurt, it was necessary for whatever God's purpose is for you to go through that. With the supporters I have from my platform has helped me in this short period of time tremendously because it's been some genuine, compassionate people. Some have been through what I've been through, men and women, and some haven't. But the encouraging words that has been said to me, as soon as I read a comment, I just start breaking down. We all know it takes a village. They say it takes a village to raise a child. And I say, it's too bad the village can't be trusted. So even though we know everyone is not a child molester or pedophile, it's sad you have to treat everyone like that with your child. Because you just never know who is who. You get what I'm saying? And with that being said, that's the first thing. Even if you have to leave your child, you know, people need babysitters, people have jobs, people have careers. But if you have to leave your child with someone from the moment they start speaking or able to talk, it's just very important to set the foundation the foundation right there. As soon as they can comprehend anything about their body parts, start it right there and there. I don't care how young it is, and we know our children 1-2 years old, we always ask them, point to your eyes, where your nose, where your mouth. Start there. So that way when you do have to leave your child with someone and you don't have to see any signs, just make it a routine to ask your child, have anyone, and while you're showing them and telling them that no one is supposed to be in those areas and you're constantly asking them at the same time, then it's very easy to prevent and or catch in the beginning.
Y'all don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Be easy, man. Be easy.